Good morning and or good evening, whenever you're watching this. Uh, Welcome to getting to know the four behavior energy styles so that you can connect for greater connection. And this is important because we need to understand ourselves so that we can connect with others too. And connection is one of our 6 core needs. And this comes from the work of Tony Robbins, where he had experimented and with researching this with over 3 million people and found it consistently across all races, creeds, belief systems, everything, that we have these 6 core needs. And connection is one of those that is consistent for all of us. And in our layers of humanity, we're also individuals, and that made up of our behavioral profile, the development stage, our parental attitudes, like what came to us from when we were being raised, the programming, and our emotional resilience as to how well we take and process things, and epigenetics, which is our biology and our history. And all of these things make up the way that we respond to the world. And the behavior energies are elements to which we can understand ourselves and each other better so that we can communicate in a way that is effective for the person that we are talking to. And there are 3 C's in life: choice, chance, and change. And that is, you must make the choice, because choice is available all the time. We may not have control over what's happening, and we can always choose our attitude. Taking a chance on, whether we can trust ourselves, which comes from knowing ourselves, so that we can change anything in our life. And that's been very key to my own personal journey, because I'm Leanne Wakeling, and I'm the mother of 4 adult children that you can see there. And on the next bit, I'll share some of the pictures of my family. And I've been married to David since 1986. But I was a bit of a landmine mum. And so I've become a geek for human behavior so that I can understand myself better and figure out how to respond to the world better. Because we may not be ready, but we can have a go. And I love craft and sewing. I really enjoy travel, and I'm looking so forward to when the world opens back up again. My personal model is adapt and overcome. I come up from a military family, and I've served myself and been a military partner for over 25 years of my married life. And we kind of just have to work on with what we've got. And I am truly passionate that everyone deserves to have an opportunity to experience their optimum self, the person that we're born to be, before the life in the tribe happens. And that is what drives my work, is from my own experience at having been brought up in a time where, kids were to be seen and not heard, where we are, constantly being in a place of trying to figure out what's going to please those around us. And we'll either become people pleasers or we'll fight that depending on our own behavior style. And so that's what's important about learning about these things, because the way we respond is something that when we learn why we do that, that we can learn to manage even better. And this is my crew, the wolf pack. And this is them when they were little. My little wild child here. This is one of the 2 or 3 photos that is in from our wedding. And he has been known to say, but where am I? Why aren't I in more photos? Well, he was the kid that wouldn't sit still, was racing all over the place, that didn't want to be in the photos. And then we have my more reserved children. We've got my comic genius, my quiet achiever, and my little bohemian here. And they are the joy of my life. And I've had to learn how to interact with them. And I didn't always do well. And it's fascinating over this journey that since I've learned how to be a better, more relaxed person, they have noticed the change. So it's never too late to be working on these things, and we can always have an impact. Because really, what's most important to all of us, and especially to our children, is to know that they are enough, that they are lovable, and that they do belong. And when we can do that for them, it becomes an outstanding experience for us all. So what are we talking about? It's the DISC behavior profiles. And the DISC allows us to tap into ourselves, but also to understand the 4 main energies that drive us all. And that's the thing to appreciate, is that these are in us all. And this is from a system that's been around for 50 or 60 years and has been in the online world for about 2025. And it's a marvelous system that allows us to identify who we are, and the way that as we understand these, that we can improve our relationships with others when we see their strong bents. So instead of assessing them according to what we believe is accurate, we can assess them based on what they believe is important. And that's the way we create connection. And the styles are dominant, influencer, supporter, and conscientious. And we're going to explore those a little deeper. And as you're watching this, if questions come up, then please feel free to ask. And whether it's send me a PM in the Facebook group, I love to support people to get greater understanding, because it's only as we know can we do better. And the way that we do that is to identify where their signs are, what motivates them, so communicating with them. So can you imagine if you understood your child in a way that you could motivate them without getting annoyed, where you could tap into their preferred way of communication? And that way, instead of trying to force them into a style that is in alignment with them, to actually connect in a way that is, making it much easier to create engagement and to get them to do what you want in a way that they can process. So our dominant energy is the first. It's our high tempo child. It's my wild child, quite dominant. He's the kid that I will admit that I was kind of hoping when he got to school that the bigger kids would straighten him out. But no, that's not how it works, because he also has some pretty good characteristics that allowed him to influence others. But your dominant energy level is your 4 out of 4. They are the people who want to win. Their archetype is the warrior bull, and their needs are significance and certainty. And this is really important to know, because as our children move through their development stages, they're also moving out of connection, because those first 2 years are very connection driven. But then they move into independence and they start to show signs of what will one day be what is known as their captain energy, which will be one or a couple of these in the way that they interact in the world. And their internal catch cry is just do it, which is why you might find them to be a little inclined to being impulsive. And it's appreciating that when they're little, this is just a sign of their behavior energy. And for the most part, that as they grow and mature and their brains become more able to process for control, that this will actually level out. May not be perfect, may not suit what you prefer most, and it does level out. This is a very masculine energy, and I appreciate that some people will find this term a little concerning, but we all have masculine and feminine energy. It is in us all. And in fact, I am a masculine energy female. I'm not a masculine person. However, I am certainly as a child focused on results. People skills not as well developed as those with feminine energy, because from our early design as humans, the male, the masculine, is designed for hunting. They're a seek and find. They are not designed to be worrying about what other people think. Some of us humans who are like this may do that, but it's going back to our original design, which was to seek and hunt. And so the masculine energy is more focused on that. And then we have, and the pros and cons is that the D styles are very determined. So if you've got a D child, they're going to show a lot of determination. If you're going to try and override them, you're setting yourself up for failure, because with little kids, they are designed to have their needs met, and their will always be stronger than yours. And if you then if you are battling to win, the only way they will lose is to feel shame and withdraw. And that actually means you've still lost. It's a win at great costs. So they're determined, strong, but those qualities get them results. They're a little risk-taking. They're prepared to go out. But they'll also be a sore loser. And our role in their development is to support them learn how to be a more functional loser, noting that it's not a problem that they're like this, that they have these qualities. It's how to optimize them. You know, that they want to do well. They're inclined to be selfish because they are results focused. They can do things at all cost. And it's us supporting them to learn without being critical of those qualities in them. And then you have our influencer. My youngest son, very much this role. You'll find it also typically in third children, which is also my son. You'll find that, again, we all have qualities of this, and it's how they blend together. So this is your 3 out of 4 energy. So they're pretty up tempo, but their driver is to want to be liked. So when we want to motivate them with things, they're not like the D-style child that you could be critical and they'll just want to win and create a competition. These will be ones who want to be happy. You know, their archetype's just a joker. So they will be a little maybe inclined to be the class clown. And it's us supporting them with what is important to them. And their core needs are connection and variety. And it's because they like that, that they're really interesting people. And if we're not in that style, we could be a little overwhelmed by them. They tend to be much more extroverted in the way that they behave. Their inclination for variety is sometimes with adventure and challenge. And if those needs are not being met at a high enough degree, they will create it through. They'll be the kid that loses things. They'll be the kid that's just not quite getting it all together. So instead of being frustrated, what we need to look at is, well, okay, how can I support my child to have their need for variety met in a way that empowers us all? And as someone who is very much this style myself, is that it's knowing the variety can be achieved in different ways, in a variety of different ways. And I really like a challenge. So a way for me to get my homework done wasn't to be motivated on to win. It was to be motivated by the challenge of achieving this by learning more and having fun along the process. This is a feminine energy, and all that means is that they're more, the feminine energy people are more connection driven. They're more about the journey as opposed to the destination. They're more about the people than the task. And when we can lean into that, we can optimize how we support them in achieving in getting the outcomes that we know that they need to succeed in a way that aligns with them, so that they learn how to do themselves and be successful along the way. So these are the kids that are enthusiastic. They're the same at work, in the workplace. You know, they're great at relationships and connection. If they've been given the skills, they're a fast starter because they like to get things done and be happy. They're less inclined to procrastinate if their needs are being met at a high enough level. They can be too intuitive, which can take them off the path because they'll be picking up on the things around them. They can be inclined to be all over the place, shiny thing syndrome, if you've ever noticed that. And so if they can get a little off track and they need a little bit more structure, but don't put them inside a box, because they will feel constrained and it will prevent them from, they'll be more focused on the challenge of getting out of the box than being focused on the things that they need to do. Then you've got your lovely, gentle supporter. They can be a little bit inclined to be my little bohemian is like this. She's great to be around people, but don't ask her to be out the front. And they're slower paced. You'll hear it in the way that they speak. They tend to process internally. They're more introverted. They want to be comfortable. So if you're agitating to try and get them to do stuff, they're going to go into flight mode or freeze mode. And then you end up with nothing happening that's good for any of us. Their archetype is mother. They do tend to be a nurturer. You'll notice that they're your child who will sit on the outside of the kids at school. They'll be the one that's observing before getting involved. They're actually happy on the outside of the circle because they don't want to have all of this attention on them. And they like connection and are happy to be in the edges of the team and keeping the team together. They're a very feminine energy and they are gentle and wonderful people. You want these people in your life. And in a workplace, these are the people that just quietly work along in the background. They don't like to be noticed, so they like to do things well because they don't want to get into trouble, because comfort and certainty is really important to them. And they're pleasant, and they're the people that gain trust because they are that gentle. They seek compromise. Their friends and family are important. So when you're with them, it's important to know this, because if you threaten their relationships, you'll have them switch off. They're not going to play well with you or your wants. If you say, well, you can't go to blah, blah, blah's place until you do this, that's not going to work for them at all. And they like to stick to their routine. So having a lot of structure is important to these. So if you've got an S-style child and an I-style child, they're going to be at odds, even though they're both feminine energy. What's important to them is different. So learning how to manage each one of them is how to make your home run more smoothly and create more harmony by appreciating that they are different. And they do tend to give in a little too easily. And it's supporting them to be that seeking of compromise as opposed to giving in, being able to have healthy boundaries, because the yes style is unfortunately inclined to have really poor boundaries because they are conceding to others. And that's their good quality as well as their opportunity to stretch more. And it's not judging it, it's supporting them to learn more functional ways of meeting those needs within them. Then we have our compliance child. And no, they don't always do as they're asked. They're a compliance as in they like to comply with the requirements. They're compliance focused. they're tech heads, they're precision focused, and they're a masculine energy. So they're not so much about the people, they're focused on the task and they want to get things done, but they want to be the expert in getting things done. And so whereas your D dominant child wants to be the winner, this one wants to be the expert. And so utilizing language that's that type of focus is how to bring them along the journey. And the conscientious child, who is compliance focused, is they're the lowest energy. They take time to make decisions. They need a lot of evidence to make decisions because they need things to be right for them. And so they think about those things. They're very professor type. You'll find that children on the autism spectrum are very much this at the extreme end of the full line of how we are as humans. They're on the outlier, but there's a lot of them. But when we can speak into this aspect of who they are, we can support them to learn as well. And it's one of the amazing things that when I first learnt this system, one of my contemporaries had a child with Asperger's, which is your higher functioning on the autism spectrum, which means that they don't read the world well. They don't pick up emotions well. It's not that they don't experience emotion, it's that they have limited, if any, capacity to be able to be in somebody else's shoes without support. And these are the kids that need information. So my friend, who was a D-focused theatre sister with this compliance energy child who was, she was about grade 4, 9 at the time, was so frustrated with this constant battle at home. Then she learned this system, was able to be operating in her child's needs for information, realizing that when she actually needed it, she wasn't just being, intentionally, willfully dumb. She actually needed more information. And when you can meet them where they are, you can support them with getting to making that process easier. And that's what they found in their family, because not only did they have a child with autism spectrum disorder, they also had an influencer. So their influencer child, they've got opposite children, and being able to run a family that integrates the needs of both types of children, or whatever you have. I happen to have all four amongst my 4 children. And so integrating that and realizing you can't just operate one size fits all. It just doesn't. It's why we get frustrated is we try. And that was one of the things that happened here, was this worked so effectively that school, the teacher was so impressed at this, applied it into her classroom, and also within 6 weeks, peace broke out in the classroom. She was their classroom teacher, like mum at home, was operating within the children's dynamics. And the wonderful thing about this system is you're only having to accommodate 4, not 24 or 30 or 36 or however many kids in the classroom. Yes, you treat them each as individuals, but the system to accommodate them only needs 4 dimensions. Can you imagine what it would be like to be operating with that in your home and at school, where everybody's needs are being met and they're all being able to work together, understanding each other? Now, the pros are that these are really thorough. These are your compliance people at work. These are your WHS, work health and safety people. This is an ideal role. They are matter of factness. And what that means is that they are very much about the rules and complying with the rules and doing the right thing. And facts are important to them. And if you've got an ASD child, they will be correcting you. And it's getting used to that fact that they're not being cheeky, they're not being rude, they're not being defiant. They are, in fact, rules-based people. And your higher functioning C energies, who may not be classified in the autism spectrum, they're still here and they are persistent. And if you have one, you know what it's like. But they do take their time. And they don't see the forest for the trees because they are precision focused. They can be difficult to approach because they don't like to make mistakes, because they like to be doing the right thing. And so when you're working with a child like this, is to be, validating what they're saying. Which is what it is with all kids. It's not taking things personally, which is also good practice with all your children, and getting to know what's important to them, because the only way to have our needs met is actually to meet theirs first. We don't have a reciprocal relationship with a child until they are fully adult. It's not their job to meet our needs. And that can be really tough for those of us who perhaps were brought up in a different time. So it's important to know that you are enough, that you belong, and that you are lovable, so that you can give that to them, so that you're not afraid of them. And the rest is just test and measure, because you won't know until you start. And my invitation today is for a complimentary discovery session for you to learn more about you. I've got a little profiling tool, easy to do. And this way you get to understand you and to recognize the qualities in your child and learn how to best interact with each other. Sessions valued at $250, and PM or email me, because I'd love to be part of your journey, enabling you to understand yourself and others better, empowering you with more confidence, and to create that family and future that you want, and the one that your future self will thank you for. Thank you so much for your time. You can come join me on Facebook in the Conscious Wholehearted Parenting, where we're speaking about the tools, tips, and strategies for raising two adults in the 21st century. And for some of us, it's raising us so that we can raise our children. Thank you so much for your time.